Good morning, friends. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all for this new edition of the morning briefing. Let's get started with a recap of what happened yesterday. There were a few movements were moving on. I wrote it yesterday in the chat in response to Ivan, which has changed a bit. The type of trading, well, in recent times, we've been witnessing almost a binary operation, so it's either going up or going down with a lot of directionality. When the trend started, we need to take this new operational scenario into account until it is in effect. At the moment, the situation seems to be this, with volumes that are becoming very interesting constantly, at good percentile levels. Even yesterday, we almost hit 3 million lots, and the same goes for the NASDAQ with very high percentile levels. So this indicates that there's a lot of activity in the market right now with portfolio rebalancing due to some of the policies. And so Trump's policies to the situation of the war. So these are all themes we've already mentioned on other occasions that it's worth reiterating because they are going to, we need to adjust a bit the structure, the market environment. So when this happens, we have to be good and able to adapt these new scenarios, these new market inputs, put it right in front of us. We see it every day. We've been seeing it for a few days now, that the directionality is always very clear. It seems like there's no more. So there's no denying that the directionality has now been established. Then a news item comes in, a statement that completely reverses the market trend with just as much volume and just as much directionality. So this is the new scenario. We need to adapt to this. So it's a warning for everyone. Pay close attention. Given the high volatility, you might consider reducing your positions up a bit to be more eased in psychological management of a position that can work in your favor, because it won't seem like they're taking you away your profit. These are all the discussions that we'll tackle in the videos regarding the psychological aspect of trading, which I've decided to do at least once a week. I will dedicate a video to these topics, also based on the survey we did in the chat. So we have some material to focus on in order to improve everything. How much the community... Let's get back to what we were saying. I made this brief digression. So focus as much as possible because the environment has changed a bit based on these things. Today we have several macro data releases expected in the afternoon. So of course, pay close attention during those times. Avoid trading right around that when the data is released, because obviously we become victims of what is the extent of the volatility, the spread that forms at that moment. Algorithms that work specifically to clean up the book, so avoid giving away money. In those phases, maybe wait for a 5-minute candle, after which the situation might already look clearer. And so you can trade, maybe with a counter trade, to continue. Then there are circumstances that need to be evaluated at that moment. From a technical standpoint, let's start with the NASDAQ. In short, the situation, it continues to be what we've said. We're in a descending channel now. Let's pull up a chart a bit broader just to give you an idea of what I mean by a channel. Well, we can also go ahead and put it in even if it's not really necessary, because it seems obvious to me. But if you trace it like this, so the channel is nicely formed, and this is a 15-minute chart. So now we're at this upper part of the channel. Probably from here it will be able to touch these areas before going back down, and we'll see if this channel will be respected. It will be respected. It will be respected. 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 It will be respected. Whether it will be respected, for now, let's take a moment. These chase, only if we find it. Here it is. Let's take it off. Let's go back to the 5-minute chart. Right now we're working, let's say, in the area of levels BC3 with a bit of a recovery hint. We'll see. I repeat, the volatility is high, so it's likely that we could touch the levels, the VIX levels, and then come back down. We need to monitor the BC3 levels first and foremost, because they will definitely serve as a reference throughout the day with new tests of these areas. In short, at the moment I'm recording the video, it's almost 10 o'clock. So in Italy, therefore, right now, this is the situation, especially on the American indices. These are times when there is a lot of movement, although the swings remain wide, 50, 60, 100 points are scored even at these times. So you can certainly look for a priority even in these moments. I repeat, right now we're in a standby situation, probably waiting for data developments that will be released today. And from there, it will probably take a direction, even though the path seems pretty clear to me. So statements, opening remarks on tariffs. Well, just like yesterday, it happened as far as the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. So these are talks about possibly easing or readjusting these tariffs, even though they've already been implemented, so they're effective. But we're already talking about it, of a renegotiation of these tariffs. And so this is the glimmer of hope that the markets and traders have right now regarding the American indices for that period. As for the rest, as I was saying earlier, we need to wait for this data for today, tomorrow, and those from Friday, especially regarding unemployment, to get a more complete picture of what the developments might be of the American economy. Let's move on to S. The situation, of course, is similar. No need to say it. We're also here in a descending channel that isn't hard to draw. It's very simple to trace it out. Low, a regression channel from the high to the low. And at these lows, well, the channel is drawn automatically without having to adjust anything. The situation here is similar. We're currently within the BC3 levels, which are acting as a range right now, so we can work with that. We'll probably extend to test HW and also SD1, which then represent the lows made of resistance. So in closing, obviously there can also be an attack because, as I mentioned earlier, the volatility is high, so all opportunities are good to go and break levels to hit the stops. And that's why I was telling you that we need to recalibrate our operations, because maybe up until 10 days ago, I'll give you an example just thrown out there. It could have been enough on a swing of 20 points, 25 points of stops. Losses today become insufficient because the volatility is higher. The levels are skewed in certain situations, especially due to pressure being exerted on the book, driven by panic. So maybe instead of placing a limit order, but you click at market, so the price, it slips quickly, prices are skipped. This is triggered by all the psychological factors that we know, and that gradually, then we'll go into more detail. That said, we're also monitoring the weekly levels here, which have definitely been breached for the S&P, but they've been recovered, so they remain absolutely valid again, and let's evaluate it. And I repeat, on these days, it's important to always keep the BC3 levels in mind, because they definitely give us the range of the day's volatility. They give us a references, absolutely, to be taken into account, and they can help us in placing a stop or an entry. And they help us in our operations, following the strategy, so identifying the patterns, thanks to identifying the swings, the right environment, and the type of operation I want to carry out. Okay, we're all set. I'm just going a bit long. This morning, we're moving on to Jones quickly. A similar situation here at the BCD levels that we can work with. A break of the lows could definitely set the stage for these tests. Here we are right at the edge of the expected weekly low levels. So if we end up working below them throughout the day today, obviously tomorrow they will be adjusted a bit, all of them. Let's take a quick look. Also the Russell, well, even though it held up better than during the night, in short, it has mostly held up, probably the one that could benefit from that could perhaps benefit, in short, from this situation of Trump's economic policies. I've already mentioned it in others' morning briefings, so it's absolutely, I believe that it could be the one that benefits the most from it. Right now, at this moment, it's going in a manner that is just like that, now, meaning he's struggling too, and as a result, of course, all these topics we mentioned earlier, I believe that in the long run, it will be the one that performs the best. That's what I expect. Then we'll see. So I repeat, these are predictions, so they can absolutely be wrong. As you know, I don't like to do them. Let's move on. Let's take a quick look at the commodities with gold and oil, and situation as well. Here, it's a bit special because the price keeps sliding even yesterday. So it has slipped. It has slipped down. It touched important weekly levels in the VIX area, from which it then bounced back. And it could definitely go back to test the weekly VIX areas from yesterday, as it did yesterday, to then possibly attempt an attack from this area here. The area I mentioned yesterday, area 68 and 60. So this is the area to watch for a recovery. They're more substantial, that's clear. This could also become quite interesting for a short. If it needs to be tested from below, it could become interesting. Short areas, right? For the area of weekly VIX, let's take a quick look at them. Laurel, here it is. Okay. At the moment, it's doing pretty well. They, seem to be recovering in the upper part, let's say in the central part of the range that we had pointed out several times. Obviously, a break here of the level of you are worth it. The upper weekly area, it could definitely give the signal for an attack on the highs that we had pointed out for this ring. Then it will depend on how we get there, but as long as we'll probably return to this range, and they'll likely come back in here. So sellers, in short, we'll see about defending this level then, if it gets there and how it gets there, what will be the developments today for those who, trade them, roll them, the contracts on the Bund Europeans. So pay close attention if you trade them. And with that, we conclude this morning briefing. We'll catch up later in the chat, as always. I invite you to leave a like on the video. If you'd like to do so more, feel free to follow me on my social media, which I'll leave in the description. So X, Patreon, and YouTube, and of course on the Discord channel. I wish everyone a wonderful trading day. We'll catch up later. Thank you all for your attention.